All right, so let's kind of back up a little bit before we run into Revelation chapter 8, because you want to keep in mind what just happened in Revelation chapter 7. As the seals were being unleashed, these were things that are going to happen and everything, but a lot of martyrdom takes place during this tribulation period. I'm not sure if it's a pre-tribulation rapture, a mid-tribulation rapture, or post-trib. I don't know exactly when this rapture happens. The Bible certainly describes a rapture. Historically, I've always been pre-tribulation. I just don't know. I don't have the confidence that I used to have. One of the things that always disturbed me was, or especially disturbed me, I should say, was the number of martyrs that there are under the altar. Okay, where the Bible says there are so many that you can't count them, from every tribe, race, and tongue. I mean, countless numbers of people that are martyred, presumably by Antichrist, during this terrible time. So that sounds kind of ominous, all right? And they ask the question, how long, O Lord, are you going to wait before you avenge our blood? They've been killed by a wicked society, by a society that is being fueled by demonic energy. And they've come after believers, and believers have been mowed down, have been executed in mass. And they want to know, God, when are you going to do something? I mean, they have viciously struck out against God by killing his children. Are you just going to sit there and let them do this? You're God. How long before you're going to act? And remember what God said. Anybody remember what God's response was to that? Well, basically, what he said was, not yet. There are a few more of your brethren that need to get killed first. Essentially, that's what he said. He gave them these white robes. Now, when I talk about those white robes, I have a running joke with a friend of mine, because we're thinking, you're going through this horrible time. The Antichrist is hunting us down and chopping our heads off. And what we get is a white robe. And it's like, okay, how good is this robe? I mean, this robe has to have some huge significance beyond just being a white robe, because all believers get a white robe. Okay, so it's like, okay, so being a tribulation saint, there seems to be implied that this is special status, that this is like the deluxe robe. Okay, it has like built-in climate control. I don't know, but there's something really special about this robe that we just don't know. So he gives them this robe and he says, hang on, a few more of your brethren need to get taken out first, and then. Now, it's like this. God is like saying, okay, I'm going to let this people, I'm going to let them do their best. These people are possessed by demons, and they are acting out what the demons want them to. They are venting their hatred against me by killing my kids. And God is saying, you know what? Let them throw their tantrum. I'm going to allow them to kill my kids. I'm going to allow that. Okay? And the thing is, hell is very real and very, very scary. And all of the trauma that they inflict on others, hell is forever. What they are doing is a fraction of what God is going to do to them for eternity. Okay, so they are digging an eternal grave for themselves, and God is allowing it. He says, you know what? You want to do that? You want to keep digging holes so that forever and ever your torment is going to be that much more? If you think there is a limit on torment, you are mistaken. You are going to pay for everything you do and then some, forever. That's what hell is. And he is allowing them to dig the deepest holes so that when they get thrown into that eternity, they are going to discover that they didn't get away with anything, that every infliction of harm that they have done will be visited upon them over and over again. I was studying the word a while back, no, this past week, and I came across something that I never really saw before. I never paid attention to it. When Jesus was describing hell, he said, where their worm never dies and the fire is never quenched. And I never paid attention to that word there, Their. He used a personal pronoun, where their worm never dies. I always read that as the worm never dies. Like, you die and like maggots are eating you over and over. Only hell is like you're constantly being tormented. And it was like the generic, everybody gets that, one size fits all. But he made it personal. And that's what hell is. It's hell is customized. Jesus made that clear that everybody doesn't suffer the same. The more you see, the more you're responsible for. The more wicked you do, the worse it is. And so blackest darkness is reserved for certain people who do certain things. So it's a customized place just for you, their worm. And so these people, by allowing the demons to control them, to kill and murder and do all this gross immorality, he's letting them build up a debt that they're going to have to pay later. So he's not doing them favors by allowing them to do this. That's actually part of the curse on their head. So he says, hang on, I'm going to get to that. And so now when we get to Revelation chapter 8, this is when God says, okay, all done. Now it's my turn. And he's got these 7 angels, and these angels have been prepared since time immemorial, and their role is to punish man and the earth at this time. And this is when God winds up and he says, okay, now let me respond to what you have done. And welcome to Revelation 8, which is the wrath of God, part 1. All right. I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them. Then the 7 angels with the 7 trumpets prepared to blow their mighty blasts. The first angel blew his trumpet, and hail and fire mixed with blood were thrown down upon the earth. And 1/3 of the earth was set on fire. 1/3 of the trees were burned, and all the grass was burned. So the earth gets pretty hot here. Okay, so we thought, we just recently went through the worst wildfires in history in the United States. Okay. Something worse is coming, and what it says here is that this hail and fire mixed with blood. We don't know exactly what that is. Are we talking literal blood and hail from the clouds? I suspect we're probably talking about multiple small meteorites coming down to the earth. We are in the middle of an asteroid debris field, so that might be what he's referring to. But however this hail is coming down, it is setting fires all over the earth. So much so that 1/3 of the trees on the planet are going to be burned up. So I don't know if that means it's going to fall on one continent, and therefore, because of the destruction of the continents that are all the trees burn up there, or if it's going to be more evenly distributed. I don't know. The grass, that's interesting that all the grass would burn up, because it would take pretty high temperatures to burn up all the grass all over the world. Now, grass can come back, so it doesn't mean that the grass is forever gone because of this, but we're talking, I think it would take very, very high temperatures around the world to cause all the grass to die. One possibility is that it's not being burned up because of the fires, but because the ozone goes down, or the magnetosphere, the B field around the earth is disturbed. If the B field goes down, then you let in a lot more radiation, and that could be responsible for the burning up of the grass. So anybody outside during this time, if that's the case, is going to be burned pretty badly unless they are wearing protective clothing. But bare skin exposed to something like this would not do very well. Okay, so not sure exactly. Those are just some possibilities as to what might be causing this kind of damage. Then the second angel blew his trumpet, and a great mountain was thrown into the sea, and 1/3 of the water in the sea became blood, and 1/3 of all things living in the sea died. Now, this is he's kind of describing an extinction level event here. All right, and this is clearly a description of an asteroid falling into the ocean. And when it hits, a lot of bad things happen. One of the things is whatever ocean is hit, it's going to be absolutely disastrous for that ocean. As you can imagine, the tsunamis that would be generated by an asteroid of that magnitude would be horrific. So pretty much everybody on the coast would be obliterated. Now, why would all the ocean life in that ocean die? Well, when a significant asteroid strikes the ocean, it goes very quickly to the bottom of the ocean and goes deep. When it does, it kicks up minerals that ultimately result in the acidification of the entire ocean. Okay, it turns the ocean into sulfuric acid, and that's kind of a natural consequence of a significant asteroid strike. That's what happened with the asteroid that they believed killed the dinosaurs. Okay, let me go back here. So I think I got ahead of myself. Oh, I'm pushing the wrong button, aren't I? Okay. 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 I cut out. I missed a slide. The one slide I had was discussing how the oceans are turned into sulfuric acid. I wanted to show you that's a real thing. I didn't just make that up. Okay, and 1/3 of all the ships on the sea were destroyed. Well, that makes sense. If, let's say, for example, if it were to hit the Pacific, then California and Washington State, the coast would be wiped out. Any ocean liners, any cruise ships, any trade ships that were in the Pacific Ocean would be destroyed. So the Atlantic Ocean, those guys would be fine. But anything in the Pacific, that's it. If you had a boat in the Pacific at this time, obviously you're not going to make it because the tsunamis would be horrific. Okay. Now, so that's the big rock, possibly Apophis, I don't know, because we're really very bad at detecting asteroids. I think one thing we've learned this year is we have discovered so many asteroids only days before they zip by the Earth. Literally, I mean, if you can go to the website and look for yourself. Most of the asteroids that are whipping by the Earth right now are discovered only days. So that, keep in mind, people think we're safe because we've got all these telescopes out there checking us out, making sure that if something bad is coming, we're aware of it. No, we're only aware of a tiny fraction. Most of the rocks that are whipping by us right now are undetected until days before they show up. So the first big rock hits the ocean and does all the damage we just mentioned. Now, in addition to that damage, that's going to kick a lot of dust up into the air as well. Okay, so that's a big thing to remember. Boom, and then the rock and sediment from the bottom of the ocean would go up into the sky, and that would darken the skies all over the world. So then the third angel blew his trumpet, and a great flaming okay, I gotta move this here. Okay. Then the third angel blew his trumpet, and a great flaming star fell out of the sky, burning like a torch. It fell upon 1/3 of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star was Bitterness. In the other versions, it says Wormwood. It made 1/3 of the water bitter, and many people died because the water was so bitter. So here we have an asteroid that looks like it breaks up, and it hits on multiple locations on the planet. It hits multiple rivers and springs. So that's why it sounds like this thing, it comes toward the Earth, and everyone's probably freaking out. Another asteroid, oh no, what are we going to do? And then as it gets into the atmosphere, it breaks up, and then it falls in multiple places. Now this thing is probably huge. It's got to be huge. And people are probably thinking as it's approaching, this is it. It's going to kill us all right now. That last asteroid did a lot of damage. This one's going to kill us up. But fortunately for us, it's not as compact as asteroid number 1, breaks up in the atmosphere and just goes all over the place, including the springs and rivers. So it hits a lot of fresh water bodies. Now, asteroids contain a lot of toxins. Okay, they really do. You got arsenic, cadmium, there are tons of heavy metals in them. And so that might be one of the reasons why the water is toxic and people are dying. Or it could be supernatural. Don't know. Okay, but we do know that people that drink the water after this Wormwood asteroid lands, many people get sick and died. And these are freshwater sources. The fourth angel blew his trumpet, and 1/3 of the sun was struck, and 1/3 of the moon, and 1/3 of the stars, and they became dark, and 1/3 of the day was dark, and 1/3 of the night also. Now this one, is interesting because we just had all of this asteroid activity, which kicks up dust into the air. Previously, we had all these fires, and so you can imagine the skies would be affected by this. Just by these fires that we just had, we saw the sun darkened. I mean, I remember, I think it was last Monday, and from the California and Oregon fires, you could look right, there was not a cloud in the sky. You could look up and you could actually look at the sun because the smoke formed such a barrier high up in the atmosphere that it blocked so much sunlight that the sun looked like the moon. And that's just with fires 2,000 miles away. So imagine all this activity is going to significantly darken the skies so that the heavenly bodies are going to be barely visible. Then I looked up and I heard a single eagle crying loudly as it flew through the air, "Terror, terror, terror to all who belong to this world because of what will happen when the last 3 angels blow their trumpets." So what he's saying here is you guys haven't seen anything yet. You think that was bad? Wait until these next ones. You don't know the meaning of bad yet. All right, so that's it for chapter 8. Any questions or comments on 8? All right, let's move into Revelation chapter 9. The Wrath of God, part 2. Trumpets 5 through 7. The 5th angel trumpeted, I saw a star plummet from heaven to earth. Now, the first reaction that people usually have to this is, wait a minute, stars are kind of big. Stars are like our sun, and if it came to the earth, that would be the end of us. One thing you have to keep in mind is that in various places throughout the Bible, the angels are referred to as stars, and it's very obvious that the stars are angels. So C.S. Lewis and Tolkien both use the same language in which book was that with Tolkien? Who the Varillion, the Silmarillion, I think. Yeah, so anybody familiar with the Silmarillion? That was one of Tolkien's latest books. He expounds a lot on that, and he talks about the stars as angels. Okay, and he tries to give the history of the universe from creation on, and he refers to the stars as to the angels as stars. And of course, C.S. Lewis does the same thing, especially in the Dawn Treader. He refers to angels as stars. Okay, so that's a biblical thing. Now, not that the stars in the sky are actually angels, but this is a term used to describe angels, probably because God is a being of light, and his messengers are likewise from that light. Okay, and so just as stars are pinpoints of light, so his children are light. And so anyway, there you go. So I saw a star plummet from heaven to earth. Now, the star didn't come from hell, from heaven to earth. So this is a messenger from God. The star was handed a key to the well of the abyss. And we don't know exactly what that abyss is. Okay. He unlocked the well of the abyss. Smoke poured out of the well, billows and billows of smoke, sun and air in blackout from smoke pouring out of the well. All right. Now, exactly what this is referring to, don't know. There's a whole lot of smoke, and so whatever he unlocked, there's a big old hole that goes down, 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 and when he unleashes the cover of that hole, the first thing that comes out of it is tons of smoke, and it appears that this smoke is not spiritual smoke, but actual smoke, okay, and it blocks out the sun, okay, and it fills the air, and so there's like, so we just talked about how the sun was reduced in its darkness, the moon and everything was already that. So this is even more, and so the daytime is getting darker and darker. So you gotta believe that people are aware of something really bad. This has got to be a very scary time. I don't really want to be a practicing psychiatrist at this time because everybody's going to be falling apart. Okay, so this is going to be really, really bad. All right. Now, one possibility is that this is the eruption of major volcanoes throughout the Earth, including Yellowstone, possibly. Now, with that large hit on the Earth, with that asteroid strike, the Earth's crust is floating. It's floating on lava, okay? And so when you slam into the Earth with the force and size of a significant asteroid, it causes lava waves, which cause destabilization of volcanoes and cause the volcanoes to like go off. And maybe that's what it's talking about, is the simultaneous eruption of the world's worst volcanoes. And that would indeed pour a lot of garbage, a lot of rock, a lot of dust into the air. And that would darken the skies a lot more. So it's going to be dark from morning. It's going to be dark all the time. I mean, these people are going to be in darkness from all of this garbage in the air. You've got smoke, you've got dust from the first asteroid hit, and now you've got dust from volcanoes going off, or whatever this abyss thing is. Maybe it's supernatural, maybe it's dust from supernatural sources. I don't know. Now, one of the things that suggests that for whatever this abyss is, there is a supernatural element to it. And I say that because creatures come out of this hole. So, if it is natural volcanoes going off, then God has created some little monsters down in this hole, some of these hellish monsters that are going to come out of this dust. And I personally can't think of any natural explanation to explain these creatures. So there is a supernatural aspect to this billowing smoke that's happening here. So here we go. Then out of the smoke crawled locusts with venom of scorpions. They were given their orders. Don't hurt the grass, don't hurt anything green, don't hurt a single tree, only men and women, and then only those who lack the seal of God on their foreheads. So these are locusts, but they're not genetically programmed to be like normal locusts. Normal locusts eat everything that's green. Okay, and what this verse is saying is, no, their DNA is different. These are genetically engineered to not eat foliage. They don't eat green stuff. They eat meat. And specifically, they like human meat, okay? So they're going after not just any human meat. These are, they actually can see whether a person is a believer or not. They can see the Holy Spirit in you or not. And if you lack the Holy Spirit, you're on the menu, okay? So they were ordered to torture but not kill. Torture them for 5 months. The pain like a scorpion sting. When this happens, people are going to prefer death to torture. They're going to look for ways to kill themselves, but they won't find a way. Death will have gone into hiding. So these people are going to be, it's not, you don't get a quick death. Now, you see, as we get to Revelation 13, what you understand that previously what has been happening is the Christians were being killed. They were being executed in mass, and many by beheading. I mean, that's going to be a thing. Beheading is going to be very popular in the end times here, specifically for believers. Beheading is relatively painless. Okay, you don't. This is not something that you suffer a long time with. Really severe pain takes about 15 minutes after the traumatic injury to experience. With beheading, you get a sore throat for a few seconds and then you're done. It's over. These people are not going to be given a quick and easy out. They are going to be tormented 5 months of utter misery and torment. And I think it's important that people read Revelation and understand that, because, you know, when Christians read Revelation, they're frightened to know that it says, especially in 13, it says, you know what, if you're going to get captured, you're going to get captured. If you're going to get your head lopped off, oh well. And that's scary. It's like, oh no, if I don't take that mark, I could lose my head. And therefore, I want to save myself some trouble. Maybe I'll just take the mark and I'm sure God will forgive me. Well, Scripture doesn't say that he'll forgive you for taking that mark, okay, for one thing. And the other thing is that if you thought that, look at what happens here. The people that take the mark, it's way worse. I mean, those guys are going to suffer. Who is scarier, Satan or God? The book of Revelation makes it clear that God is way, way, way scarier than Satan, okay? I mean, you're talking 5 months of utter torture. You can't even escape it through death. The horses, let's see, what leave off there? Okay, that's verse 6. Okay, so now let's go to verse 7. The locusts looked like horses ready for war. They had gold crowns, human faces, women's hair, the teeth of lions, and iron breastplates. The sound of their wings was the sound of horse-drawn chariots charging into battle. Their tails were equipped with stings like scorpion tails. With those tails, they were ordered to torture the human race for 5 months. So these things are really scary looking. I mean, you know, these are, it's like, just the idea of having little human faces, that's demonic looking. Seriously, these things are right out of a Lovecraft horror movie, you know. I mean, these are really scary entities. But yeah, here they are, and boy, that would be very bad to be stung by these things, and just the terror that people must be experiencing by these things, because there's nothing saying you can't be stung more than once. Now, you might be thinking, well, you know, all you got to do is stay in your house, don't go outside. You know, don't worry about it. The locusts can't get you. All right, if you've been paying attention, the Earth's not doing too good. You got hit by a giant meteorite in the ocean, then another bunch of hits that cause fires and everything, okay? The earthquakes generated by this cataclysmic activity have to be horrific and probably worldwide, okay? So with that level of earthquake activity, most houses have either fallen down or have cracks or fissures in them, so you might get some protection from the rain, but there's going to be holes and unless you're in a really hardened facility, there are going to be holes in the places that we go for refuge. And these insects are going to find their way in. I mean, it's fall, and I consider my house pretty airtight, but I've got stink bugs. I've got a lot of stink bugs. I'm killing stink bugs every day. They find a way into the house. How they get in, you know, for the most part, you know, I got to find a window, this part open or what, but man, they're very good at finding their way in. These little stinkers are going to find their way into people, especially in a world where the domains that people use for shelter are going to be cracked up. Okay, so yeah, it's gonna affect a lot of people here. It's another drawing of these creatures. So they're pretty. These things are nasty looking. You know, I mean, yeah, that's pretty. Talk about a little monster. These things are monstrous in appearance. God's good at making monsters. Just in the past, when he made monsters, he puts them deep in the ocean, or he puts them away from human settlements, or separated by time, such as, you know, dinosaurs and things. Okay. They had a king over them. They had a king over them, the angel of the abyss. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon. In Greek, Apollyon, destroyer. The first doom is past, two dooms yet to come. All right. So I don't quite know the significance of this king over these locusts, but the Bible describes that. So maybe it'll make more sense at the time. The sixth angel trumpeted. I heard a voice speaking to the sixth angel from the horns of the golden altar before God. Let the four angels loose, the angels confined at the great river Euphrates. The four angels were untied and let loose. Four angels, all prepared for the exact year, month, day, and even hour when they were to kill a third of the human race. So there is a date that the Father has known all along. There is a specific date in history this is when a third of the human race will die at the hand of creatures more monsters, basically. So these first set of monsters were there to torture for 5 months. The second set of monsters here, they're there to kill. They're there to kill, and they're to kill 1/3 of the human race. The number of the army of horsemen was twice 10,000 times 10,000. That comes out to 200 million. So John heard the actual number. He actually heard that number. 200 million of these things are going to be released. I heard the count and saw both horses and riders in my vision. Fiery breastplates on the riders, lion heads on horses, breathing out fire and smoke and brimstone. With these three weapons, fire and smoke and brimstone, they killed a third of the human race. The horses killed with their mouths and tails. Their serpentine tails also had heads that wreaked havoc. Now, this is a pretty interesting monster here, where you got these things with lions' heads that are breathing out fire and brimstone. They have snake heads on the end of their tails that also bite people, and they die by poison. So you've got the smoke kills, the fire kills, and the poison in their tails kills. So how big these things are going to be, are they macroscopic, microscopic? Are they the size of normal horses? Don't have the answer to that. Don't know at all. So, but basically 200 million of these things are unleashed. And the bottom line is a third of the people alive will be killed by these monstrous creatures. The remaining men and women who weren't killed by these weapons went on their merry way. So 1/3 of the population dies, 2/3 remains alive. But did they repent? Did they get scared enough to cry out to God for help? Nope. They didn't change their way of life, didn't quit worshiping demons, didn't quit centering their lives around lumps of gold and silver and brass, hunks of stone and wood that couldn't see, hear, or move. There wasn't a sign of change of heart. They plunged right on in their murderous, occult, promiscuous, and thieving ways. So that's it for Revelation 8 and 9. So they start, again, we don't know for sure how many people are going to be left, but if you start with 8 billion, which is around our current population, 20% die secondary to the war of the red horse. That leaves 6 billion. Then assuming about 2 billion Christians are martyred. We don't know what that number actually is, but assume about 2 billion. That leaves 4 billion people left. Assume 1 billion dead due to the events of chapter 8. So now we're down to 3 billion. 1/3 of these are killed by locusts. So we're left with 2 billion people. About 20% of the current population, probably less than this, but about 20% of the original population is alive by the end of Revelation chapter 9. So this is the opposite of the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu killed 20% of the world's population. The events of Revelation, and that was the worst worldwide disaster in history, was the Spanish flu. This is the opposite. This kills 4/5 of the population and leaves only 20%. So this is the worst cataclysmic thing that ever happened to planet Earth, because it's the end. All right. Any comments, questions on this?
Verse 7.
By this or no? Is it
everybody? Go ahead.
Okay, one at a time.
Go ahead, Eric.
Yes, Lyle?
Okay. Are the Christians killed too, since they had that seal, or does everybody get it?
No, this is God. The Christians are only killed by Antichrist. The curses that come on the earth, the believers are spared. So if there are believers at this time, they are spared.
Okay, a comment or two, but I don't know if you realize it, but I'll go back to chapter 8.
Yeah.
Okay, verse 7, and where it talks about the hail mixed with fire mixed with blood.
Uh-huh.
It's an imagery of the seventh plague of Egypt and Egypt.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is, because he turned the turned the Nile River, he turned the water into blood. So yes, there is that is similar to the plagues in Egypt. So yes, there are some similarities there.
Anyhow, but that's what
Local, it's all over.
that's going to be the same thing with chapters, the same next verse. 2:8, with the sea turned into blood.
Yeah.
First plague.
Let's see here.
It's reminiscent of the first plague. The
Gotcha.
sea
Sea
turned into
became
blood.
Yep. Now the thing is that when we get there, because I mean this could be another miracle, where the sea literally becomes blood, or it's because of the death caused by the asteroid, and it becomes a putrid mess because all the living organisms, everything dies, and so it's just this rotting morass that changes color. Also, the iron that's kicked up because the asteroid strikes down deep and it kicks up sulfur and iron, and so there would be a reddish color to it. So that might be what it's talking about, or it may mean literal water to blood, like in Egypt. So that is a possibility. We won't know till we get there, but either of those, I mean, because John is describing what he's seeing, and so this is what he observed. So either way, this is what could be happening. Okay, but yeah, you're right. It could be literal blood. I mean, there are miraculous things happening here. These creatures, for example, there is no natural explanation for that. None.